Welcome to The Daily Show.
This is the place to be.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
These people love New York City. Do you love New York City?
I'm so glad that you've been able to stop by in New York City. I feel like you're on the campaign trail all the time now. Is that like a shift for you in what you do? You're the mayor. Yeah. You're normally here every single day just doing mayor things.
Yeah.
And then now you're out in the country campaigning to be the president of the United States. Has that changed your life?
I still do a lot of mayor things.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because it's a job that's literally 24/7. You can never, ever stop thinking about it.
Right.
It's 8.6 million people. It's the biggest city in the country. It's the most diverse place on earth.
Right.
I run the biggest police force in the country. I run the biggest school system in the country. So I got to focus on it. But I also know a lot of what we have to make better here in New York and all over the country can only be fixed in Washington. That's the truth.
That's interesting.
That's the truth.
Let me ask you this. A lot of people say being a mayor is probably the hardest job in American politics because whatever you do has an immediate repercussion. Everything that goes wrong is blamed you're blamed directly. Whereas in Washington and in politics, it feels like there's a lot more of a buffer that goes on. Why would you subject yourself to both scrutinies at the same time? Why would you want to be a mayor and run for president at the same time? Are you just a sucker for punishment? What is that?
There's a place in this world for masochism. There really is. No, look, I literally, for 6 years, I've been running this place.
Right.
And I love New York so deeply, and I think New York actually, right now, is a place where people are getting along pretty well. Mm-hmm. We're a place for everyone, right? Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. And we've done things here that I think would really benefit the country. And part of what's motivated me to run for president is I was able to do things that change people's lives. Pre-K for every child for free. Let's just think about that for a moment. Everyone in America.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're red state, blue state. We were able to do that here in my first 2 years as mayor. And I've talked to families, Trevor, whose lives are just totally changed. Their kids are getting an opportunity that many of them never dreamed of, and they certainly couldn't afford. And let's face it, in America, education has been divvied up by economic reality, not according to what your skills are, what your possibility is. And that's not actually consistent with our values. Imagine a country where every child got to start at the same starting line and could reach their God-given potential. We're doing that here, and it gives me confidence we could do it in the whole country.
You have been aggressive in rolling out many liberal policies, or progressive ideas rather, in New York City. So as you said, pre-K, you also pushed for a $15 minimum wage.
Yes.
These are ideas that you believe you can scale out to the rest of the United States.
Absolutely.
Do you think you can roll those out considering how different the budgets are of a country versus a city?
Yeah, because look, $15 minimum wage is a great example. When it first was being floated as an idea, I supported it early on, I believed in it, but you had a huge amount of opposition, particularly in the business community. But by the way, not just Republicans, even Democrats were saying, oh wait, this is going too far. But think about what $15 means. If you're making $15 in New York and all over the country, it's not enough to take care of a family on, ultimately. Minimum wage is supposed to represent an idea that you can live on it. That's a long time ago, a minimum wage you could live on. You can't live on this minimum wage today. And so when I say $15 an hour, I know it could work because all those doubting Thomases said, oh, the economy is going to be ruined, we're going to lose jobs, businesses will suffer. You know what happened? We actually ended up adding jobs. We have the strongest economy we've ever had. 500,000 new jobs since I became mayor. So,
well, let's then talk about some of the broader issues that you would face as a president.
Yeah.
In many ways, I feel like a city is a microcosm of America, especially a big city.
Yes.
New York is no different. You have issues surrounding education. You have issues in and around inequality. If you look at those, as much as New York has added all of these new jobs, as much as New York has become a safer place to live,
yes,
you cannot deny that there is a homelessness problem in the city.
Yes.
You also cannot deny that people are struggling just to live in New York unless they earn a lot of money. People are getting pushed out of the city, whether it's foreign investors who don't live here or it's just gentrification. How do you fix these problems in New York in a way that then can be fixed in the rest of America?
So, look, it's really important to be honest about the things that work and the things we're still trying to figure out, right? You mentioned safety. This city today is the safest big city in America. and I'm very proud of that fact. And we've helped bring police and community together in that process. And we found out that the things that we were told about how you stay safe, like stop and frisk, which President Trump loves to talk about as a great solution, it turned out stop and frisk was separating communities from police. It was creating tension. It was creating division.
Right.
We got rid of it. We got safer. Crime has gone down 6 years in a row in New York City. That is a really good thing. But you're right, there are these problems like homelessness, and we're seeing it all over this country. And Trevor, it is directly related to the fact that we're seeing gentrification in cities, that the price of housing is going up. There's now an affordable housing crisis in this country. What I can at least tell you in New York is we've created some solutions. We got a long way to go. But I'll give you an example. Right now in this city, when developers want to build major new buildings and they have to come to the city and get permission, we require them to build affordable housing as part of that. We say you have to build 20%, 25%, 30% of your apartments have to be affordable for working people.
Right.
That is now law in New York City. We could do that in this whole country. We could do that everywhere.
So you could say that, you know, to developers before you give them permits, etc. You obviously are expressing an idea that you have a certain amount of power when you're in a government position.
Yeah.
With regards to the police, that's one position where you have direct power. And you can't deny New York City has been divided in and around the case of Eric Garner.
Yes.
You know, that was a case that really broke people's hearts because we saw the video.
We saw
the
him
video.
die.
Yes,
We
saw
saw
the video.
him
We
die.
didn't see him die, we saw him get killed.
Right.
And you saw him get killed by a police officer who, combined with a group of people, really seemed to be overreacting to somebody selling cigarettes. Now, since then, the federal government took on the case. After 5 years, nothing happened. But people are looking at you as the mayor and saying, why are you not calling for this policeman to be fired? Because even according to the training, it does not seem like he acted appropriately.
So, Trevor, I understand that 100%, and I try and be really honest with people. It's because of a legal reality, and I want to explain it to you. But the most important thing to say first is there has to be justice in this case. The places we turn to for justice for generations, the United States Department of Justice, you know, the district attorneys, the places where you thought there would be charges, there would be a trial, everything would be aired.
Right.
That didn't happen here. In a way, honestly, I can't think of any other example as bad as this where there was no actual trial. The first trial that ever happened in this case happened in the NYPD's own internal process. There was a full trial, a public trial. A judge decided, an NYPD judge said, no, that was wrong, and this officer must be terminated. So, as painful as it has been, awful for the Garner family, unacceptable, remember that where there finally was a justice system working, it was actually within the police department, and that says that something is changing unto itself. The law says I am not supposed to interfere in that process, and I believe by not interfering in that process, we will get to an outcome. I know it will be this month. I believe it will be fair, it will be impartial, and then it will stick. And this chapter, this extraordinarily painful chapter, will be over once and for all. That's what I'm doing. I'm following the law, but I'm also ensuring that we have a police department that actually created that fair and impartial process.
Let's talk about the police departments. You know, there's often a misconception, in my opinion, that police are not human beings. They are. I also believe very much in the ethos that hurt people. And a lot of police in police departments are strained, underpaid, overwhelmed, forced to make money by ticketing people or arresting groups. And you see that strain start to filter through, not just in New York, all over the United States. But New York, we're reading numbers where 8 policemen have committed suicide in 1 year. 8, killing themselves.
It's horrible.
That tells you that something's going wrong. It tells you that these human beings are dealing with the problem. Now, if these human beings are dealing with it, they're also dealing with other human beings who they then transmit their problems to. What do you think can be done about reforming America's police system? How do you get better people to become police? How do you enable police to become better at doing their jobs?
First of all, I think there's a lot of very good people, many, many very good people who choose to be police officers because they actually have that impulse to protect others.
Right.
And what we found in this city is we had to help people be the best they could be by giving them a lot more training. For example, that horrible reality around Eric Garner was based on a philosophy that used to be very, very aggressive. Policing was supposed to be aggressive and interventionist. And what we taught ever since that horrible tragedy, literally we retrained 36,000 officers. And we said, no, de-escalate. Don't let a small situation get worse. De-escalate, calm things down, bring in other officers. Let's try and get a different situation. Or if someone has, for example, a mental health challenge, let's wait till we can get some mental health provider to come over and help. Also, implicit bias training. Every police force in America, and this should be a federal mandate with federal support, should have de-escalation training and implicit bias training. We're all humans, we all have bias, we're brought up with it. All of us have to weed it out, particularly those who protect us and carry weapons. Those things, body cameras also, every police force in America should have body cameras. These are the things that start to change the culture profoundly. So I'm very hopeful that as we move out of this bad past, and it's just plain bad, it's filled with division and racism and pain, that we can actually bring out the very best in those who serve us. And that means then they get connected to the people they serve in a different way. When we got rid of stop and frisk, we replaced it with neighborhood policing, and we said, you actually go to a neighborhood and you get to know people, first name basis, build relationships. And what officers told me was people started to confide in them, would share information with them, would thank them. I mean, Trevor, think about that. If you want to talk about stress and the challenges of being a police officer, which are intense, actually getting overt appreciation, getting a warm embrace from people, it really helps. And we're finding that's happening more and more. But I got to tell you one more thing. These suicides are extraordinarily painful. And today I sent a message out to the members of the NYPD that was very personal. And I tried to help them understand from my own experience. So my dad was in the US Army. He volunteered after Pearl Harbor. He served in the Pacific in battle after battle, and ultimately the Battle of Okinawa, which is literally one of the worst battles in human history. And it was toward the end of the battle, a grenade goes off, he loses half his leg. And he survives, and he comes back, and he's dealing with the physical challenges. And by the time I was born, I saw a guy who was big and strong and dealing with the fact he only had half a leg, but was starting to feel the psychological, the emotional effects. As I was a young child, he fell into alcoholism, depression, and when I was 18 years old, he took his own life. And this is, if you met this guy, my dad, he was strong, he was smart, he had lived through that entire war. He volunteered literally at the very beginning of the war, went to the final battle of the war. He was not killed in that battle, but that war ultimately killed him. And I sent that message to the men and women of the NYPD to say, no matter how much you're good people, you're strong, you're trying to do a job, you're trying to protect other people, but you could still be dealing with a challenge just like my dad was. The difference is my dad, when people tried to offer him help, he didn't know how to accept it. He literally didn't know how. He thought it would suggest some weakness or that he could handle it himself, and you could tell he couldn't handle it, but he would kind of push it away, push it away. My message to our officers is if you yourself are having a challenge or someone you care about in your precinct, there's nothing wrong with accepting help. And we're going to make sure that help comes from fellow NYPD officers, people they can talk to, their peers. We're trying to do so much to make mental health services available and destigmatize the mental health challenge, which my wife Charlene has focused on these last 6 years. Take away this awful stigma that afflicts us in America, even though mental health challenges affect 1 in 5 adult Americans. Somehow we make it a character flaw in our minds, in our culture. It's not. It's not a sign of weakness. It's something that's in us. So I hope that message, I hope all the other things we're doing to try and reach our officers will help people to come forward and get help for themselves and to save themselves and to save their families who will miss them.
I hope so too. It's a powerful message. The presidential race has been an interesting one.
That was an understatement, sir. You're very subtle this evening.
Trying to be suave.
You're about to say we need more candidates. Though.
No. I've just started acting on CSI, so I.
That's right.
The presidential race has been an interesting one. You have 24 candidates. You have many people on that stage who get barely 3 minutes to speak on any given night. I truly am fascinated by somebody like you who has been on that stage, who has polling numbers as low as yours, but But policies, no, but really, but policies.
You meant it in a good way.
No. But policies that are responded to as well as yours when you're on the stage, because when you do speak, the people do respond to you, right? Do you genuinely think that you have an opportunity to win the race to become the Democratic candidate, or are you there to try and shape how the party has a conversation going forward?
Trevor, I never run for anything unless I believe there's a way to win. When I ran for mayor of New York City, I assure you I was an underdog. I assure you a lot of people said there's no way in hell I had a chance. And I saw things turn around suddenly weeks before the election. We've seen that over and over. I mean, I'd like to tell you, I don't know if you heard about this, Donald Trump is president of the United States. I mean,
what?
No, do you know how few people thought that was possible? I mean, it's shocking. What's happened in American politics today is the only thing that we can predict is the unpredictable. So as someone who's been an underdog time and time again, I don't get overwhelmed by being an underdog. I think people are listening and they're looking for something still. I think there's still just a huge percentage of the electorate that have not made up their mind ultimately. I believe in my heart the Democrats want to nominate a progressive. Right. I believe they want to take on all the inequalities in this country.
So then let me ask you this about that. Just go straight to the core of it. Why do you think you're different from all 24 other people up there? What makes you different?
No, this is the question you always have to answer.
Other than being 10 feet tall, what makes you different?
First of all, now, the tall candidate has won, I think, every one but 3 of the presidential elections in American history.
Okay. So you know what you should do? You know what you should do then at one of the debates when they say your opening remarks, just bring a hoop out and dunk.
Yes.
And just be like,
that's it.
That's my remark.
No further statements.
That's no further statements. That's it.
So the tall candidate almost always wins.
Okay.
And I'm taller than Donald Trump.
Okay.
Do the math.
This is interesting.
Do the math.
Okay.
But no, I came to this simple conclusion. I've run the biggest city in this country and been able to make real changes. Literally put money back in the hands of working people. That's what Pre-K for All for Free did. That's what the $15 minimum wage did. The affordable housing programs, giving people basics. We're doing 2 things right now. We're giving, for everyone who doesn't have health insurance, which is hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, we're just guaranteeing them health care at this point. We're saying we're going to give you a health care card. Come to one of our public hospitals and clinics. We're going to give you a primary care doctor so you can get health care when you need it and pay whatever you can pay. So, and one other I have to say, because I think people need to hear about it, we're the only country in the world, only industrialized, I should say, country in the world that does not guarantee hardworking people. People work every week of the year, have no guarantee of any vacation, any time off by law. In New York City, we're going to pass a bill guaranteeing 2 weeks paid vacation for every worker in New York City. And the whole country needs that. So the things we're talking about, it's as simple as this. I respect these other candidates very much. Some I feel very close to personally, politically, but I've actually done these things. I've had to run the biggest city in the country. I've had to produce these changes for working people. I've had to take on very powerful interests. I've taken on the real estate community here. I've taken on the landlords in New York City. I've taken on all those folks who said, oh no, we have to keep stop and frisk, or we have crime and chaos, and I stared them down. I said, no, we're getting rid of it. And I would prove to them we would get safer, and we did. So I've actually had to lead in a very tough dynamic and make real progressive change for real people. I think that's what folks are ultimately looking for. They appreciate folks who can give a good speech or have a good policy paper, but ultimately this is about people's lives, their families. And I'm able to say, hey, for 6 years I did it in what's arguably the toughest place to do it. This is considered often the second toughest job in America. If you can do it, if you can get big things done for people, well, of course, that's the kind of qualification necessary to be president of this country. And I believe people are looking, they're searching for the candidate that they think will give them real change in their lives.
Right.
And, of course, what Democrats want, what unifies us all, who can take on Donald Trump? Look, I've watched this guy for decades. There is no trick he has I haven't seen. He is the ultimate con man. He's literally, it's just a classic bait and switch con man. To deal with him, you have to be aggressive, you have to be assertive. So I say to people wherever I go, I say, I apologize as a New Yorker that you ever had to meet Donald Trump. I want to just get that formal apology. And I said, this New Yorker is ready to get rid of him for you. So
that's your pitch?
That's my pitch.
Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Trevor.
Appreciate having you here. Mayor Bill de Blasio, everybody.